Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark. And it's not a Saturday assortment, it is however a Saturday summary today that I will be going through. I will take you through a little bit what's happened this week and of course how my reading's been progressing as well. The reason it's not an assortment is because of course I haven't had time to do any other stuff really apart from reading and working, so I haven't got any more of the opera things for you this week, but school finishes soon, so I hope to be able to carry on with that. Okay, so, well actually to be honest it's been a bit of a tough end to the week here in the Czech Republic, as a tornado of all things, a tornado with speeds of 219 kilometers per hour smashed through parts of southern Moravia, and it actually killed 5 people and injured more than 150. It's not really the kind of thing you expect to happen, in this part of the world, though it does. And it was really quite freakish and terrifying when I saw the videos and things. And all the footage I saw just shows devastation of an apocalyptic nature. Yeah, it was like some kind of dystopian film with wrecked cars. I mean, they were talking about during the storm they had hailstones the size of baseballs or cricket balls, pretty much. Yeah, so it's pretty horrible, and there's a lot of charitable efforts underway to help the people who've obviously lost their homes. As well as other things, so it's pretty scary stuff really. Thankfully I'm pretty far from that area and I'm in a mountainous region, so I don't expect it of course to happen here, but I guess you never know. Still, my thanks definitely goes out to those of you who inquired as to our safety. Elvis and I of course are fine. As I say, we are quite far away from that area. And it's a real shame. It's a very beautiful place. I was there on holiday a few years ago with my family when my parents and my sister came out to visit, and it's a wine producing region of the country, and I think many of the vineyards were damaged, so that will make problems, I suppose, later on down the road, because obviously the industry would have been hit hard by the epidemic, and now of course this, so and also tourism will be affected as well, as they're just trying to recover from the pandemic. But yeah, so anyway, moving on a personal note, last week saw the winding down of the school year. Here most classes were actually on school trips, so I didn't have too much to do in the way of teaching at school, though I did have a lot of things to kind of prepare and start for next year. I hope to use the summer break for more reading, of course, as well as putting out some more videos, though I would say that, of course, the most important thing for me this summer is to spend more time with Elvis, because, when I'm at work and things, I do get to miss large chunks of his day, whereas, I get now 2 months of the two of us together, which will be fantastic. Coming up, I've got a few buddy reads. The first one should be, I think, in August, and it will be Herodotus, the Histories, with Summer at Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats, and Vin at Revenant Reads. And hopefully a couple others will join. I asked Michael Cable, and he seems interested, and one or two others as well, so that would be fantastic. Also, in our box of discussion last night, someone mentioned Three Men in a Boat, and I put out maybe we could do a buddy read of that. So at the moment it'll be me and some of my Reading Europe 2021 pals, but of course if anyone else would like to join in reading Three Men in a Boat, they'll be more than welcome. The time is yet to be decided, and the same goes for The Lost Pianos of Siberia, which I suggested that maybe I could buddy read with Misa from Books and Sushi. And again, there's no time yet on that, and if anyone else is interested, by all means leave a comment and join us. It will be fantastic. I've got a small book haul. Well, is it a haul? It's 3 books, but they're all actually related to a book I've talked about before on this channel, which I finished at the beginning of this month, which was HHHH by Laurain, and I said it was a fantastic book, and it was. Very unforgettable. So reading it prompted me to get a couple of other books that were kind of related to it. The first one being Jonathan Littell's The Kindly Ones, as it's mentioned in that book. Though it was quite funny, I think it was the day I ordered it, or the day after I ordered it, Steve Donahue put out a video that wasn't very kindly disposed towards this book, but it was too late to, I suppose I could have cancelled it, but I'm going to make my own decision and form my own opinions about it. It's a big one, but it was mentioned within Binet's book, so I think I'll give it a go. It sounds very interesting. It's all about a lace factory owner in post-war France who has a dark past, and I guess it's a kind of faux memoir or fictional memoir of this character. So I don't know, I think it would be quite interesting. I did actually read just a couple of pages, but I hope to get through that at some point. The other one I went for was actually a Czech book that was mentioned in HHHH, and it's by a little-known Czech writer, actually. And I say little-known because I asked everybody at school and almost nobody knew him. And his name's Jiří Weil, and he was Jewish and he was a communist. So that might have something to do with how he kind of got lost after the revolution and maybe before. And I think he only published a couple of books. He died quite young. I think it was tuberculosis, or it might have been something else, but it was illness. And this is the book Mendelssohn is on the Roof, and it's all about, it relates to this story of the SS ordering the removal of composers from the roof of the State Opera in Prague, removal of Mendelssohn because, of course, he was Jewish. However, no one specified which statue was Mendelssohn, and one of the SS people said, of course, he's the one with the biggest nose. So they started to demolish that one, and it turned out to be Wagner. So it's a little bit of a dark comedy, apparently. It starts off quite funny and then descends into moving tragedy. So I think I'll be interested in that. It's been a while since I've read some Czech literature. I did order some actually the other day, so I hope to do a bit more of that during the summer, but I'm really looking forward to reading this one. And then the third one was Binet's third book. I bought his second book several months ago, and I bought his third one, Civilizations, a few weeks ago. After reading HHHH, I thought he was fantastic, so definitely I want to read everything he's got that's been translated into English. Anyway, so it's a book that looks at world history, but in a bizarre way, I suppose. So I'll be able to tell you more about that once I've read it. So that's my little haul. Moving on, it's quite interesting, actually, going back to HHHH. It's funny how things we read sometimes come up again in real life, because last Friday was the 18th of June, and it was actually the anniversary of the dramatic last stand between Gabčík and Kubiš, the two main protagonists in that book, who undertook the assassination of Reinhard Heydrich in Prague in 1942, and they and a few of their brothers in arms, I suppose, retreated to this church in Prague, where they held out for many hours against onslaughts from the SS, and ended up, one of them, I believe, died on his way to hospital, and the others committed suicide rather than be taken alive. So that their anniversary, as I say, was last Friday, and there was quite a moving ceremony I saw actually through the British Embassy's Facebook page, which was it was very interesting. So moving on, this reading challenge I've been doing, Reading Europe 2021, has been fantastic. People have been reading so many books, and the Voxer group is really, really great. And I will just give you a brief summary of what I've read during that. Of course, it's linked to the Euro 2020 football competition that's taking place at the moment, and I drew the team Germany. So far, I have read for Germany only one book at the moment, actually, but I am reading another at the moment. And I read Olga by Bernhard SCHLINK, and it was nice. It was a very interesting book. It's a book in 3 parts, and they're quite distinct parts. The first one is kind of like a biography of Olga, and then the second part is a memoir of somebody who knew her, and then the third part are her letters to her lost love. And it's kind of just a history of the late 19th century to around the 1970s of Europe, as lived and seen and talked about by this main character, Olga. Yeah, it's worth a read. I really liked it. I know some people don't like him, but I really enjoyed it. He is, of course, the author of The Reader, which I very much enjoyed and also plan to reread as well. The next I've read, I have to move now to my ebooks because I haven't got everything on printed book. So the next one I read was for another team in that group, which was Portugal, and it was The Tale of the Unknown Island, which I've mentioned, I think, in a previous video. And it's a very, very short story about looking for unknown islands and the fact that all islands have been discovered, so there's nothing left to discover, but actually it's all really to do with finding yourself. So The Tale of the Unknown Island by Jose Saramago was really enjoyable and really short, which helped given the nature of this competition. Another team in this group was France, and I've read 2 books for France because they were very short and a lot of fun. The first was The President's Hat by Antoine LAURAIN, and this was really enjoyable and charming and whimsical, and it's all about the kind of magical properties of the French President François Mitterrand's hat and how it affects people's lives. And I won't say any more, but if you're interested in French literature and want something really fun, then I would recommend that. And I would also recommend the other book of his I read, also, as I say, by Antoine LAURAIN, which is French Rhapsody. And this was good fun as well. This is the premise of this revolves around the fact that in the present day, a GP receives a letter from the post office, and it's actually like 35 years too late. Yeah, it's come to him. It's taken 35 years to get to him, even though it was sent a few arrondissements away. And it was offering him and his band a record contract back in the 1980s. He was in a band. And the story revolves around him trying to track down other members of the band and also to find out if anyone's got any surviving copies of their recording that they had made for that. And it's, as I say, it's whimsical, again, also very charming and a lot of fun. So that's French Rhapsody by Antoine LAURAIN. And currently I'm reading for Germany as well. I'm reading a fascinating non-fiction. It's by an English writer, and one of my favourites. I've mentioned him a few times, Giles MILTON, and this is Checkmate in Berlin, and it's brilliant. I have to say, I've always liked him, but this particular one looks at the early days of the partitioning and sectioning off of Berlin. So it's before the wall, and it takes place from 1945 to 1949. A lot of the early stuff revolves around the rapes and atrocities committed with the advance of the Red Army into Berlin. It's very reminiscent of A Woman in Berlin, book I read for Women's History Month back in March. But the rest of it, when it goes into the politics of how the Soviets and the Americans and the British and the French try to work together, how they tackle crime, how they try to rebuild the city, they're falling out, the blockades, the airlift, whatever. It's really well done, and the characters in it are immense. For example, the American commandant of the sector, he's known as Frank Howling Mad Howley and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool, and there's some very interesting stories in that. So I would recommend it for anyone who has an interest in mid-20th century post or Second World War, post-Second World War and Cold War history. So Checkmate in Berlin by Giles MILTON. And the other one that I am still reading, it's also a fantastic book, but it is quite long, although it doesn't look overly thick. The print is quite small, and it was a book for Hungary, who was also in that group, though unfortunately they've been knocked out. And it's My Happy Days in Hell, which is the autobiography of the Hungarian poet GYORGY FALUDY. And it's I think it was written in 1962, and he still had a lot of life left to live. but it covers his early life as a child in Hungary. He talks about some incidents from that past, and then how he had to flee Hungary with the coming of the fascist regime there, and he moves to France, and then of course he has to flee again because of the Nazis coming. He goes to North Africa, he goes to America, he joins the US Army before going back to Europe. He then goes back to Hungary, where then the communists come. He gets arrested, tortured, sent to the Gulag. He's only one of 21 people who survive his time in the Gulag. And then he ends up emigrating to Canada, and then he goes back to Hungary with the end of communism in Europe, and he dies there in Budapest at the age of 96. So yeah, it's quite a life, but only part of that up to the Gulag is talked about in this book. But it's very interesting, and if anyone wants something different to read, I recommend it for sure. Continuing with the Reading Europe Reading Europe 2021 challenge I've been running. Germany's next game, as I say, Germany's my group, takes place on Tuesday, and this is against England. If England win, I will combine that with Jane Austen July, and I will read either Northanger Abbey or Emma, or both. So that would be great. After a couple of days break, the tournament continues with the last 16 games, the first one kicking off today. First two, rather, kicking off today. And those are... who are they? Wales, drawn by the Reading Writing Life, and she's been joined now by Knitting Books, etc. as her team was knocked out at the last round. Versus Denmark, drawn by Rambling Raconteur, who has been joined by Remembered Reads after her team was knocked out in the last round as well. The second match being Italy, drawn by Soggy, Expat, Booknerd. She keeps that on her own, versus Austria, drawn by Aaron Facer, who also holds on to that on his own. So that's what's coming up today. And there will be 2 more matches, of course, tomorrow. So a bit of a long video and a few technical issues in between. You probably noticed my phone ran out of memory and things like that, so I've had to cobble it together. I'm not an expert editor, so please forgive me that, but hopefully it doesn't ruin your viewing experience. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch, and I wish you all a fantastic rest of the weekend. If you watch the football, I hope you'll enjoy that as well, and happy reading. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.